Everyone. Welcome to the Solar and Storage Market Series. My name is Erez Dolev, and I'm Managing Director here at RENVU. Today, we're going to be hearing from John Cromer, Head of Training at Sol-Ark. He will talk about optimizing commercial ESS design with their hybrid inverters. John will cover CNI ESS Overview, CNI preliminary design considerations, unique CNI applications with hybrid inverters, and optimizing rooftop solar strategy with commercial hybrid inverters. But before we dive in, and while we're waiting for more people to join, I'd like to give a little background on RENVU, as well as some of the products and services we offer. RENVU is a US-based solar equipment distributor. We've been in the industry since 2012, and we currently have fulfillment facilities in California, New Jersey, and Texas. Our sales staff all have backgrounds within engineering or solar installation to provide you with the best sales and services. RENVU carries the full Enphase portfolio and offers great pricing on those. So if you're using Enphase, check with our team. We carry also Sol-Ark for CNI and residential storage projects, and Solectria for commercial inverters. We carry Tigo optimizers and rapid shutdown devices, and AP Smart rapid shutdown devices to pair with these inverters. We have unique mounting solutions, such as the Power Field Power Rack that you see on the left side. This is a ballast ground mount solution, and Bleakier carport that I will talk about in a few seconds. Both are known for ease of installation and development. We also have floating solar PV solutions, which we covered in the last webinar. We have a recording of that on our YouTube channel in case you want to develop a floating solar system on water bodies. Email us at info@renvu.com if you have any questions about these products or need any quotes for anything else. Here's our bulk module price list for large volume options and our upcoming offering of solar modules. We are offering the ZenShine 550 bifacial modules at 23 cents per watt, and we'll have some Canadian 550 on the shelf in 2 weeks as well. We are sharing in the chat a link to this page in case you want to save it. So just a live spreadsheet. I'll take a minute also to mention the Bleakier residential carport. This is a great way to expand existing solar system or an alternative solution where you cannot install solar on a roof. It is designed to be assembled by a small crew of 2. It doesn't require any specialized or heavy machinery to install. This is a solar structure, so it's eligible for the 30% ITC and possibly also the extra 10% for US-made products. It is modules and inverters agnostic, and it is designed and fabricated in the US and made from US-sourced galvanized steel. And it comes with 25 years warranty. There are 2 T-gaskets options that can be added to make the surface watertight. You can use it also for other projects. We are carrying it on the shelf. The structure is coming with a structural engineer P stamp. You can install up to 24 modules with 4 columns of 6 modules. With a 410 watt module, you will get around 10 kilowatt and the same power output with 550 watt modules. Load capacities up to 448 pound per square foot snow, 215 miles per hour wind load, and seismic design category F. Last thing here is our online solar design tool. You can generate as many quotes as you need in a couple of minutes without the need to wait for a sales engineer. It's available 24/7, always updated with the latest products and pricing. First, you select the components you would like to see on your quote, and then choose your panel. I'm choosing ZenShine 550 bifacial here for this commercial project. Next, configure racking system from a wide range of options: tilted, a flat roof, ground mount, carports. I selected here tilted with corrugated metal. Uh, I'll build here two arrays. First array with 3 rows. I'm putting many modules because I want the Sol-Ark 60K to pop up in the next few steps. So it's a 100 modules project here. Some in landscape, some in portrait. You can see at the bottom that the system gives you a sketch of the system with measurements, so you can make sure it fits your roof. Then you get the option for inverters. You can choose between microinverters, optimizer, and string inverters. I chose string inverter here in order to get the Sol-Ark. Um, Appropriate here would be a three-phase system. I will choose actually the 480 volt. And then I have here as an option the Sol-Ark 60K, which I choose, and I'll choose also the Sol-Ark outdoors battery cabinet. I'll add also rapid shutdown. And on the last page, you will be able to choose some BOS, Lumin Smart Panel, and EV chargers. You can add several extra panels in case something will go wrong. So you have them. And then on the left side, you can see how pricing is being updated as I'm making my choices. This is the last page showing all the items that were chose. Um, Now I clicked on generate the quote. 12 seconds, I will get a quote to my email, and it will also be saved under my account. So it's recommended to do this process while you're logged in, and then the tool will actually show your prices and not the general prices that we're presenting online. Okay. If you have any questions about this product or about Sol-Ark while John is presenting, please feel free to ask in the Q&A section. You have a button uh, marked as a Q&A. This is the appropriate place to post your questions. We will get to those questions at the end of the webinar during the Q&A session. If there is something relevant, I'll jump in and ask John while he's speaking if it's relevant. If not, we will get to it at the end. You can also email our sales team at info@renvu.com for any information and pricing. This webinar is being recorded, and we will send you a link in a follow-up email. We also have recordings of previous webinars on the RENVU YouTube channel if you want to go over that. And we have recordings as podcast on the Apple podcast or other infrastructures there. Without further ado, I'll hand it over to John.
All right, thanks. Welcome everyone. This presentation is available for NABCEP credit. So if you're a NABCEP member, go ahead and click that link, fill out that certificate, and let's go ahead and just dive right in. So Sol-Ark has had commercial inverters on the market for quite some time now. But we have recently launched a high voltage battery to complement our inverters, which positions us as a leader in behind the meter C&I storage. So we're going to get into a presentation today covering applications, covering our product, talking about some projects that have already gone through and been commissioned, and where we're seeing projects come out of the ground to give you some idea of what's shovel ready in today's market. Just very quickly on Sol-Ark. Sol-Ark is a leader in the transformerless hybrid inverter space. We've had transformerless hybrid inverters on the market in the field since 2018. That gives us more experience in that product class than essentially any other manufacturer in the United States. It started with our popular 8K 2P inverter back in 2018. We've since gone through multi generations of product design, but it's all very apparent that when we launch a new inverter, it's built on the same technology platform as previous inverters. Whereas a lot of our competition, when they launch a new inverter, you can tell it's a brand new model, which may have some wrinkles to iron out. The commercial storage market is growing. So for the installers who are impacted across the country by declines in residential net metering, commercial storage should be something you're sharpening your pencil on and taking a close look at, because that is where much of the growth for this year, next year is. So if you want your business to keep growing, pursuing commercial business is worthwhile. And of course, with Sol-Ark, we have a product line that covers both residential and commercial, so that you can deal with one manufacturer for all behind the meter applications. Looking at where storage is used throughout the United States, one of the biggest uses is time of use metering. California widely has time of use metering, even for commercial customers, and it's as simple as connecting a battery to your electrical service and charging off peak and discharging during peak. What's kind of interesting about that is you don't necessarily have to have a solar array connected to that battery. So maybe we think of ourselves as energy installers or even battery installers, whereas in the past we've been very focused on solar installations. What I like about that is with batteries, you can always say yes to a customer, because you're not going to be constrained by rooftop weight limitations or shade conditions or other site reasons to say that the solar array, despite the desire, can't necessarily fit on the job site. We'll also talk about these other applications, but time of use metering is the largest. That's just basic, charge off peak, discharge peak. There are some load shifting capabilities of that. This is pretty commonplace, and if you're already installing in the residential battery space, you should be pretty familiar with these concepts. What I would say for time of use metering is the Sol-Ark controller that comes with the inverter is very robust. It can handle multiple seasons, so like a summer and a winter period, multiple times of day. All of that can be programmed right in front of the inverter. It can also be programmed. Online. And so one aspect to look at is when you're evaluating a site and say, do I really have a good project site for energy arbitrage, is just look at the electric rate structure. And if it's a meaningful difference, if there's a big difference between peak and off-peak energy rates, then yes, you have a good project site. If you don't really see that differential, maybe it's like a 3 or 4 cent difference between peak and off-peak, at that point, your project is going to really have to rely on other values to move forward. One common tool for modeling this is Energy Toolbase. We are working on an Energy Toolbase integration with their controller. So if you're already modeling an Energy Toolbase, then that should be a welcome news. If you're not modeling an Energy Toolbase, what I would say is that Energy Toolbase, it makes commercial project economics accurate enough for a CFO to actually crack a smile when he sees the cash flow analysis and return on investment. So they've very focused on being a economic modeling tool and an economic proposal builder to a degree of accuracy and transparency that is really necessary for commercial projects to move forward. So not all projects with Sol-Ark will need the energy tool-based controller, their Acumen EMS system. If you're on a basic time of use rate or even a basic demand management rate, the Acumen EMS is not absolutely necessary, but still modeling the project in energy tool-based is worthwhile. Right now, that's just kind of modeling using their manufacturer agnostic tools, just a function of inverter size and battery size. But we are developing that relationship for more direct integration. Another traditional application for battery systems is peak shaving. And I think that there's a few items of note for peak shaving that are interesting. Let's see, I think I can draw on the screen, so I'll try drawing at the same time. But essentially, what you want to look at is your electric bill, and then to see, well, what percentage of that electric bill is a demand charge and what percentage of that bill is an energy charge. And even if you don't really know what the load profile is of the building, if you have a very high demand charge and a very low energy charge, typically that means that's a good site for demand management. You should proceed. If you're looking at the demand bill and it's only 20 or 30% of the electric bill, well, at that point, you really don't have spiky peaks. You have kind of a steady load throughout the day. So even if you don't know the load profile of the building, just by looking at the electric bill, you can get a sense of whether it's going to be a good project or not. And then as you gain experience in this sector, you'll start to realize that certain types of businesses like school districts and convention centers have very different load profiles than, say, agricultural facilities. And you can kind of develop a specialty around that. Now, as far as pursuing peak shaving projects, the very interesting thing to me is that there's kind of a reverse economies of scale. The most cost-effective peak shaving projects do not power the entire facility. They don't offset or zero out the entire facility. They target on a much smaller section of that facility. So if you go into a commercial load bank and you see a whole bunch of 200 amp load banks within a larger panel board or switchgear, you might only tie in to one of those 200 amp load centers, and at that point you can back up that singular 200 amp load center while providing peak energy and peak demand management for the entire building. So even if the building has 400 or 800 amp service, you can still do a 200 amp project and start small. So that's different from solar projects in the past, where you've wanted to do as large of a project as you can to get that dollar per watt pricing as low as possible. With commercial batteries, especially if you don't have a good idea of what the actual demand reduction will be, if they have not, it's always best to get as much site information as you can before going into a proposal. But let's assume that for whatever reason, you just simply, maybe it's new construction, you just do not have any building demand profile information. Typically, the smallest project is going to have the fastest return on investment because it's just going to laser target the peaks and the peaks alone. Solar arrays can complement peak demand management. If your building has more of a plateau throughout the day and your plateau is in the middle of the day, and particularly if you're in sunny climates like California, a solar array can come in and eliminate your midday load, and thereby create a morning peak and an evening peak. And so, if you want to go beyond the smallest project, which would be just a single inverter, one or two battery cabinets, and leaving it at that. If you wanted to do something more ambitious, adding a solar array, and doing something more detailed and complex can grow your project size. So I think a good strategy is to plant a flag on that commercial site to say, hey, I'm here, I'm the service provider of record. You didn't have enough information for larger project planning. I'm just going to go in with one inverter, one or two battery cabinets, do peak demand management, and then gather data for a larger expansion project. If you're already on site and servicing that site, you have a much stronger chance at winning that phase 2 project build out. And so just always keep in mind with demand management in particular, there's a reverse economies of scale. With time of use and energy arbitrage, it's, well, how much energy am I using during peak hours? Okay, that's the size of my battery bank. With demand management in particular, even a very small project in the $100,000 range can be very cost effective and get you in the door for doing that $1 million project expansion. Another aspect of demand management to keep in mind is that it wildly varies throughout the country. So yes, markets where electricity costs are high are areas where you get high demand charges. So you can find high demand charges in the East Coast, in the West Coast, markets that are stereotypically high energy price markets. However, in the markets throughout the United States where the average cost of electricity might still be 12 cents a kilowatt hour, in those areas there are geographies that invite high demand charge. So rural areas, they don't have as many customers per mile of power line as others. So it could just be that, if you want to put a very large facility in a very rural area, your demand charge is out the nose. Also, peninsula terrains and mountainous terrains are challenging for running power lines. So those power lines only have a limited capacity, and that leads to high demand charge. So you can find high demand charges even in markets that are not traditionally solar markets, like let's just say the Southeast United States, Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama. You can find high demand charges in those markets where there might not be any solar market to speak of. And all of a sudden, because you're focused in on demand charge management, you can kind of unlock that market in your area. So I strongly encourage you to become an expert in your local rate structures, particularly your local corporate rate structures. Anywhere where the demand charge is over $15 a kilowatt is a high likelihood of project success. The next application of projects is demand response. So this is very similar to peak shaving. In a sense, you can think about the utility. They have the same issues that the commercial market has at large. So instead of having demand issues to deal with at the facility level, they have demand issues to deal with at the grid level. And so rather than build new power lines, rather than build new power plants, one solution is to incentivize batteries. And you can do this through direct market participation at the utility scale. You could also do this by creating a virtual power plant. And the industry has taken efforts with inverter listings, of which Sol-Ark participates in, to take utility demand response signals and discharge batteries at that time for incentives. And this is where whether it's residential or commercial, I feel like behind the meter policy is going. Whereas in the past, you could say since 2005, maybe even earlier, there was a push for net metered solar or batteryless solar. And now we have the counter trend that says, hey, look, in the markets where solar's been very successful, we now have too much solar in the middle of the day. And what we really need, maybe midday electricity used to be very expensive, but now it's dirt cheap. And what we need is evening electricity or morning electricity. So instead of utilities kind of begrudgingly accepting net metering policies for a small sliver of their customers, they're now saying for the next phase of solar growth, we're not going to do net metering. Instead, we are going to incentivize the job sites giving us the electricity exactly when we want it. And while that is scary for installers who have relied upon net metering as a business model, I have to remind everyone that fighting the utility is not going to get us to a 10% solar grid or a 30% solar grid. We need to have a collaborative effort with the utility, and in some cases, the demand response incentives are as good as net metering, if not better. In California with net metering 3.0, the value of exported energy is about the same. It's just you can only do it between August and September, between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. And you have to have a battery to do so. There's a demand response incentive program on the East Coast via Connected Solutions, where it's quite easy to get project financing and warranty terms where the project can cash flow similar to a net metered array. And so what I really see is these demand response programs taking over where net metering in the past has been, and that if you are in those markets where the utility is doing virtual power plant incentives or demand response incentives, you can expect those incentives to be around for a very long time, kind of like the Northeast Coast SREC programs, and that they will be where the major markets of behind the meter storage really takes off. So you have a few PG&E, a few demand response programs of note. They're popular in Utah, popular in the East Coast, in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut, with Connected Solutions. New York is looking at them, and California is looking at them. Now, all of these are kind of in their fledgling state right now. The commercial programs are just being developed. It could be that in California, net metering 3.0 becomes not that big of a deal because the demand response incentives kind of replace participation in the current net metering 3.0 incentive structures. So this is something that we are going to have to track and be aware of. Sol-Ark, in turn, is allocating more dedicated resources within our headquarters to focus on demand response, participation, and program success. So the long story short of it is demand response programs are going to be where the market, these are the SREC programs, these are the net meter programs of the future, where whatever states really rally behind them and get behind them are going to be the primary markets for behind the meter storage over the years to come. Figure this stuff out but what I like about behind the meter applications is that they're voluntary investment pools, whereas when you build out utility scale projects of any sort, it takes everyone buying into it, usually via mandate. I would rather buy in at the 30% tax credit than buy in at 100% of the project cost. for building out the grid. Now, one problem with demand response programs is they become difficult to model. Um, a variety of demand response programs do their programs differently from each other, and they might have differences between residential and commercial incentives amount. Um, I don't think that that's that much of a problem for industry professionals because it invites expertise and it values expertise. So by rolling up your sleeves and understanding how the economics play out, uh, you are ahead of the curve. Uh, However, the way that we've designed our software and our modeling tools as an industry has not really taken in demand response programs and program incentives into account. And so kind of the industry crisis going on in California where particularly residential installers who were relying on net metering are now shutting down. I don't see as a lack of opportunity or market opportunity. Is electricity still expensive in California? Yes, it is. Um, so do people want solar and batteries? Yes, they do. So the appetite is there. To some extent, the industry is kind of strangled by waiting for companies like Energy Toolbase and Aurora Solar to update their modeling tools to better simulate the value of these incentive structures. But all of that is happening. The industry is not, asleep at the wheel. And these programs, particularly the Connected Solutions program on the East Coast, can end up paying for the project cost over that 10-year period. So it can be very lucrative. So kind of surprisingly, the last application is backup power. And I think that this is going to be a very popular application over the years to come and growing in appetite. But it's almost like, solar in the early 2000s, where people would say, what? I didn't know you could do that. Now the idea of adding battery backup to a home is starting to, catch public attention. But adding battery backup for businesses is still a bit of a foreign concept. I would recommend viewing backup power for businesses in a similar light as you would view it for residential customers. The residential customers who want solar batteries tolerate longer payback periods than those who are just chasing net metering. And so, if you think, oh, I can't sell this commercial project because I don't have a 4-year payback or a 5-year payback, my payback is now, 8 or 9 or 10 years. Well, that payback is within the warranty of the equipment. And as long as that job site has a need for backup power, that customer is going to be more willing to move forward with a project than projects that are purely focused on reducing the electric bill without backup power. That said, one of the successful business models we're seeing is for installers not to chase the backup capabilities of the system. If you are in one of those incentivized markets where you do not need the backup capability of the system for the project to move forward, so if you found another reason why the project needs to exist, it might be that you're trying to add EV chargers to the parking lot, but you don't have enough power and you're already doing a solar carport. And so all you need is the batteries with the solar carport to do some, energy time of use arbitrage, participate in a DERMS program, and provide the additional power capacity you need for those EV chargers. Well, the backup capability of the system isn't the priority. And when you start to sell backup, there's there's more on the line for you as your business. There's more servicing cost and there's more risk associated. So it is possible, and we do see projects being installed in the commercial space, just like we see in the California residential, non-backup battery market, there is a non-backup commercial market as well. So just keep in mind that commercial backup power is possible. It's something that should be increasingly popular. There are reasons to sell it, but you don't have to sell it on every single project. So pick your battles wisely. But when you think about it, the backup market should be a much larger market, because all it takes is the utility not wanting you to game their demand rate structures or time of use structures and making slight adjustments to their programs to make them a little bit less advantageous. But when you think about businesses with revenue loss when they lose power, that's refrigeration. So your grocery stores, cold storage facilities, agricultural facilities. There may be just some desire to have some backup power so that when you do lose power, all of your computer systems don't go on the blip. That you still have power to your computers, power to the building lighting system, the security system. So that you can leave the business and shut down the business in a responsible way. And then on top of that, there may be some regulatory requirements for backup power as well. So now let's get into the Sol-Ark commercial product line. We have inverters for 3-phase 208. We have inverters for 480 3-phase. And also keep in mind our inverters have a grid pass-through capability that stacks the more inverters you install. So if you need if you have 400 amp service, you're doing a 2 inverter system. If you're doing a 600 amp service, you're doing a 3 inverter system. And Sol-Ark has experience with all of that in the field, already commissioned and installed. And we've been doing it with our residential line for years. So, our residential line has been shouldering the 3-phase appetite, because you can do 10 inverters, and hey, there are some residential homes in California that have 800 amp or 1200 amp service. They're more like compounds than homes. But Sol-Ark has never shied away from doing those large projects. What I like about our 3-phase commercial hybrid inverter line is you're no longer stringing inverters by each phase, that they're actually doing native 3-phase out of the box. Some applications for our products. Rooftop solar. It's very easy to retrofit existing solar arrays onto a Sol-Ark battery system. We include in our inverter an additional port, so it's not just the grid connection and not just the backup connection, but we have yet a third connection on our inverters for a generator. And if you're not using it for a generator, you can use it for other things such as AC coupled solar. So if you have an existing solar array, you can just untap it from wherever it's tied in, tap it onto the gen port, and then you have your solar array interconnected into the backup side of the system. We have plenty of experience with ground mounting. We have integration partners that make very robust battery cabinets. We have our own outdoor battery cabinet. Carports are one of my favorite applications in the industry, commercial applications for our battery line with our hybrid inverters specifically, because we do DC coupling on our inverter. So if you have a solar carport, you can land the solar array directly onto the inverter. And then if you're doing a carport today, you're probably wanting to put EV chargers in that parking lot. Well, that gen port, if you don't have a generator in the parking lot, you're not doing AC coupled solar, you can land the EV charging station onto the gen port. Your utility transformer coming from the grid, you can land the grid port onto that. and you may not even use the load port. It might be a non-backup project, or you can run the conduit and put the load port there for future use, or go ahead and tie it in and do building backup. But the point is, on a carport, the unique aspect of a Sol-Ark hybrid inverter is that all elements of the system, the solar array, the grid connection, the backup load connection, the EV charging station, can all be tied into that inverter at a single point, which dramatically simplifies the switch gear and interconnection hardware for that infrastructure. So when you're looking at our product line, safety is a concern, reliability is a concern, performance is a concern, and cost is a concern. We take all of that into consideration when we're designing our products. As far as safety goes, our batteries, our L3 series high voltage batteries, they have fire suppression built in. That allows the AHJ to waive you out of your fire sprinkler requirements. So it's very useful. We do all the UL 9540 and 9540A testing. Our inverters are listed for grid interactivity and standalone mode of operation. So all the things that you expect a listed system to do, we have. The warranties on the product are 10 years. So it's 10-year hardware, 10-year performance warranty. And then Sol-Ark, I don't know if you've Googled our headquarters recently. I always think Googling the headquarters of your manufacturer is a good tire kicking strategy. Sol-Ark has moved into a 500-person office building just north of Dallas, Texas. We're not quite at 500 people yet, but that is kind of our target and our commitment to jobs in the United States. So all of our technical support is run out of our headquarters if it's not provided by regionally based field application engineers. So we, and that has its ups and downs. If you have dozens and dozens and dozens of support personnel, as Sol-Ark does, there is a training process for your frontline support. But the point is, we are a manufacturer that is committed to having a significant brick and mortar presence in the United States to get you the support that you need. And that includes, support hours that are friendly to California, despite being located in Texas. Our hybrid inverters are capable of seamless transfer time. That is because we do not have separate energy management panels from the inverter. So when we do a hybrid inverter, it is not just about combining the batteries and the solar array. It's also combining that grid interconnection and management point. Again, our 30 kilowatt and our 60 kilowatt inverters have been on the market for over a year now. 10-year out of the box warranties. Basically, you select the 30K for 208 3-phase, the 60K for 480. As far as our system sizes go, just keep note that we scale it back for the outdoor installations, and then you can really ramp it up for indoor locations. So with outdoor, we want your projects to be successful. We want to kind of keep it simple with the provided hardware, the provided bus bars. So it's basically, you can go up to 6 inverters with a minimum of 1 battery cabinet per inverter, up to 6 battery cabinets per inverter. So you can do a total of 6 inverters with 36 battery cabinets. For 208 3-phase, that's about 180 kW of backup power with a 2 megawatt hour, slightly above 2 megawatt hour battery, and a solar array that ranges from around 230 to 350 kW in size. Of course, you could always have different blocks of systems, stacked, backing up their own kind of service points, but that's a different discussion outside the scope of this webinar. The 60K being more powerful than the 30K, using 480 volt service instead of 208 volt service, can do a little bit more backup capability, a little bit larger solar array, the same kind of 2 MWh project size. So, this is very useful. You can do very large storage amounts in an outdoor ruggedized setting, where the project, for whatever reason, the shipping container just doesn't fit, whether it's ugly or tacky, or just, it does not, it's not suited for the site. Our containerized solution or our non-containerized solution has a very small footprint. One of the unique aspects is that the inverter is outside the battery cabinet, and that means the heat from the inverter is not inside the battery cabinet. A lot of our competition, they're taking inverters that were intended for server rooms, an air-conditioned space, a dust-free space, with a steady load, and they're just putting them inside a metal cabinet and calling it an outdoor rated ESS. Our inverters have, many years of outdoor ruggedized testing behind them. They are intended for building backup power, not just backing up steady loads. When you go indoors, if you build a room, you put in your air handling equipment, we allow you to do a much larger system, up to 10 inverters in parallel, up to 16 battery cabinets per inverter. Now you will have to provide your own, busing system at that point, but you can do, gigantic, battery systems, that would be capable of backing up, convention centers in terms of their storage capacity. So, much larger if you want to use our indoor series. So we have separate battery options for indoor and outdoor. Our indoor option, it's an open rack, so this has to be installed in a authorized person only kind of secured room. It's an open rack so that we can deliver you the very best price. We're intending to be price leaders in this C&I space. And, so we think that we are very competitively priced. Get some quotes from RENVU and prove it to yourself. Very easy installation. Each one of these battery modules has fire suppression built into it. When you go with our outdoor unit, you pay a little bit more money to get that rugged outdoor cabinet. The cabinets come with an air conditioning unit. It comes with a bus bar at the bottom, so it's very easy to parallel battery cabinets to a single inverter. Very compact. To kind of stave off some frequently asked questions, when you get into peculiar three-phase electric service, so what that would be is like 240 volt three-phase, so with a high leg, or you get into some, maybe you're in Canada and so you're using some Canadian rate service voltages. At that point, you need to add an additional transformer to get to those unique services. So we're really supporting 120 208Y with our 30K, or 277 480 volt Y with the 60K. We do have a engineering partner, so if you need structural plan sets, stamped plan sets to meet your seismic requirements of your AHJ, we have already taken that into consideration and can refer you to structural engineering services. Otherwise, to find out more about our data sheets and our product, we are actively maintaining the commercial page on our website. It is the best way, to get the source of truth on our products. So go to our website, go to our commercial product page, and read up more about our L3 series, both for the indoor and the outdoor. Perhaps one kind of nuance is that the indoor battery cabinet for the 208 volt is a 40 kilowatt hour cabinet. That the outdoor cabinet is a 60 kilowatt hour cabinet. The outdoor cabinet is the same whether it's the 480 volt option or the 208 volt 30K option. The indoor cabinet for the 60K is a little bit taller than with the 30K, being a 60 kilowatt hour cabinet instead of a 40 kilowatt hour cabinet. So a little bit of a product difference between indoor 30 kilowatt 208 and outdoor. So now I think we have a few minutes left for Q&A. More than happy to get into your questions. 10 minutes isn't going to cover everything. And so as kind of a next step, going to the Sol-Ark website and going to our training portal at training.solark.com, we have a contractor training program, which you will want to be a part of for our commercial installations in particular, for getting better field installation resources and access to our field application engineers. So make sure you go to the Sol-Ark website and register for the training portal. Make sure if you're not an in-network installer that you go to the Sol-Ark website and fill out that install the partner with us installer application form, and then otherwise utilize our website for product information. And with that, I think it's time for some Q&A.
Great, thanks, John. Do you want me to read it for you, or
No, I have the kind of the Q&A pulled up on the screen. The spec sheet for the battery shows 100 amp continuous with recommended for 50 amp. The warranty also mentions a 50 amp rate half C. Is the warranty voided if the customer goes over a 50 amp charge and discharge? It really depends how frequently you go over a 50 amp charge and discharge, which is, to say that, if you are, a good way to think about it is, for your demand response programs, for your demand management, for your time of use, you want to stick to that 2-hour charge and discharge rating. And the reason for that is your batteries will last longer. That is when you get the throughput warranty of a battery. It is done at a standard test condition, and that is something that I think the battery warranties throughout the industry are not sophisticated. They're kind of like solar panel warranties back in 2005. That were just like, oh yeah, 25 years, 80%, and that's it. What that doesn't take into account is the environmental conditions that the batteries operate in. So if you're giving a battery warranty that's based off a standard test condition and then saying, oh, you can put the batteries into whatever application, whatever environment, use them however you want, there's going to be some upset people when it comes time to their throughput, and they've really used their batteries to the max, and the manufacturers kind of try and back out of their warranties. So we publish our warranties in our manuals. So go to our website, go to the L3 series, the battery warranty documentation is there to get more details on our warranties. But the short of it is, you can have the 1C rating there for backup mode of operation. If you are going to use the battery more aggressively, you're still going to get a 10-year warranty on the product, but that throughput is going to be adjusted if you go with a faster charge and discharge rate than C/2. And that is true for all lithium iron phosphate battery chemistry. That is just a chemistry fact. It doesn't really get much more complicated than that. Do you have any product or manufacturer recommendations for battery combiners? Eric may have his own recommendations. I really like Marathon specialty products, but why don't you go ahead and answer that?
I mean, I think that Marathon is a good option. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I commonly at the residential level recommend say I think it's is it deep sea or blue sea? I drawing a blank, a rare blank for that. I think it's I'll have to look it up. It's either blue sea or deep sea. Um, that has a wide variety of listed battery combiners. But generally, when you're getting into higher voltage ratings and you need good SCCR ratings of listed products, Marathon Specialty Products is a way to go. You know the busing system for our outdoor series. It makes it very easy to combine three batteries to the inverter. Each inverter has two battery terminals, and that's why we limit it to 6 battery cabinets per inverter in the outdoor setting, is you can get those 6 cabinets into 2 groups of 3 wired to the 2 terminals on the inverter. Just makes a very easy project. Are the SAL3 batteries required, or can you use other brands too? So yeah, you can use other brands, and we have other brands already in the field with field experience. Endure and Pilotech have batteries that are compatible with us. I believe Blue Planet and HomeGrid are also working on solutions, so we're still battery agnostic in that regard. And maybe those options, you have a good relationship, you want to maintain it. Maybe you like having there are some advantages of having twice the support access, even though you have to call 2 companies that kind of get brushed under the rug with not necessarily truisms about having one throat to choke, which don't hold up if your manufacturer is sourcing their products from all over the place. Um, you know, we make our batteries and our inverters from the same sole source OEM, and so you know it's a very reliable and secure supply chain, so that you're not going to run into logistics issues, and you know supporting it all in house. Um, we do believe in battery choice and being battery agnostic. The reason why we have not, you know, the reason why we have gone into commercial batteries in particular is with high voltage, the safety factor goes up. With a lot of series wiring, the reliability issues go up as well. And it's commercial, so reliability is even more important than residential. So we felt to streamline a lot of those issues, we had to come out with our own product. The battery certifications, basically, you can engage with us. We will have them on our website soon. But in the meantime, you know, to be a commercial Sol-Ark installer, just go to our website, fill out the partner with us form, and engage with your regional sales manager. So if you don't know who your regional sales manager is, you can always give the Sol-Ark phone line a ring and ask. You know, we have so many of them. I can't just tell you, oh, it's this one or that one. You know, we have 3 or 4 sales managers in California, plus a sales director at this point. Um, you know, behind the scenes, we have CNI product engineering specialist. We have CNI product marketing manager. And you'll probably interface with them for your design and development questions. But as far as how you engage with that, what we want you to do is lean on our sales team and be that authorized Sol-Ark installer and utilize our sales team for those communication channels. Custom external battery installation for 360 kilowatt hours in a container. What are the requirements? The term of AHJ. Oh boy, that is too long for a Q&A session. Q&A session. You know, a lot of AHJs require UL 9540 and UL 9540A. So, you know, you're going to have to get that custom solution listed, which is not for the faint of heart. Do the inverters qualify for domestic content? No, they don't. And the thing is, our inverters are quality and they're reliable, and we feel that that is more important than an additional domestic rider content incentive. That is more of a long term industry shift incentive than a short term grab an extra 10%. I don't really know of a good way to get that 10% domestic rider content on a behind the meter commercial project. The only strategy I would have for that is to use lead acid batteries, so that the bulk majority of your project cost and material is made in the U.S. But nobody really wants lead acid batteries for these applications. So it's you're chasing the incentive instead of chasing the actual application, and I don't think that's a real sustainable project philosophy. So I would focus on the other incentives rather than the domestic content incentive. Specific combinations of inverters and batteries that are listed together, or does the UL listing include all recommended combinations? Yeah, the UL listing actually includes more combinations than what we put out as our combinations. What we want you to do is keep the battery banks per inverter symmetrical. What we want you to do is order by the battery cabinet and have full battery cabinets. The listings are more expansive than that, but we don't really want you to have to get into those reasons on when they're expansive or when they're not. So basically, if you stick to the 6 inverters per outdoors and 6 battery cabinets per inverter, and then you make sure that amongst all inverters, the battery cabinets are uniform for outdoor. And then for indoor, up to 10 inverters, up to 16 battery cabinets per inverter, making sure all the cabinets per inverter are uniform across all inverters. At that point, you have a valid design for our UL 9540 listings.
Well, we did it on the minute, which is really impressive, John. I think it's the first time. Um, thank you very much. Yeah, we appreciate Sol-Ark service and uh, development of products along the years that we're working together. Um, this webinar is being recorded, as I mentioned before. We will share the recording in a follow-up email that will enable you to share it with your coworkers. Um, for now, thank you everybody for joining us today. Thanks, John, for doing this, and we'll see you soon. Have a good week. Bye, everybody.